is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success.
I'm like, James, I am not about that life. No, my mama did not come all the way from Haiti for this. I'm not selling at no farmer's market. No. Are you going to grow this business that has a lot more potential to impact lives? Or are you going to just be miserable working for somebody else, making somebody else rich?
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 69 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And that voice that you heard was Barbara Jacques, who is the founder, creative director, and chief formulator at Jacq's Organics, which is a sustainable bath, body, and skincare line. And on this episode, Barbara talks all about how she was able to take an idea that came to her during a health scare during her pregnancy from passion project to a viable full-time business. So she talks about the steps and the challenges and everything she had to face and overcome in order to make that happen. Barbara also talks about how she was able to juggle full-time work, motherhood, and entrepreneurship, tips for growing an online business, how to stand out in the marketplace, and bounce back from fear. And at the end of it all, there's one thing that Barbara talks about that I think is really important for you guys to remember, and it's this: no one can do it like you do it. So a lot of times when we're, invested heavily in our passion projects, sometimes we get stuck and we think, oh, my idea isn't unique, or I'll never make it, or no one will ever be interested in this. And you know what? That is so far from the truth, because your unique spin on your idea or the passion that you have, your story is worth it, and that's what's going to help you as you put your dreams in drive. If this is your first time listening to Dreams in Drive, thank you. Make sure that you are following us on social at Dreams in Drive, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and use the hashtag Dreams in Drive when you're listening to this episode and share your favorite parts from it. I always love going on and seeing what you guys are saying about the show and episodes, so thank you so much. If you want today's show notes, just go to dreamsandrive.com and click on episode 69, and make sure you are subscribed to our Dreams and Drive channel so that you get updates every time we have a new episode. So let's get into this one. I know you're going to enjoy it. Can't wait to hear what you think. Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for being a guest on today's episode of Dreams and Drive. I am excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
It's always so fun. So I'm a huge natural body product connoisseur. So it's going to be so interesting and so fun to talk to you about how you launched your skincare line and your whole story. But as you know, I love to start every episode with the same question. What inspired you as a child, Barbara? So if you had to tell me who was Barbara, the 7-year-old, the 8-year-old, what would you say?
It's funny because I was thinking about this question right before the interview, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who was Barbara as a 7, 8-year-old? I grew up in a house full of boys. I was the only girl. I don't know, let's see. I know I was very creative. I was tough because I had to be. Like, I was in a house full of boys, and I was also extremely competitive because I had to keep up with the boys. I was really into sports, but not into, because my family we weren't really into soccer or football, but I was really into like competitively, like, when you, like in the days in the 80s, I don't know how old you are, but when TV wasn't so much of a big deal and you played a lot outside and it was more about like winning, and I would race the boys down the street. I laugh when I think about this. Oh my gosh. And we would see who could climb up the tree the quickest, and so I was inspired also by like my mom. I was my mom's little tail. So any and everything that she did, I wanted to do like her because she was my shiro. But that was me as a 7 or 8-year-old. I was really into dolls, but I was really into like rough playing and getting my knees scraped or fighting the boys just to kind of like prove myself, that was me as a 7 to 8-year-old.
So how did your spirit evolve as the years went by? So through middle school and high school.
How did my spirit evolve, you said?
Yeah, so do you think those same characteristics stayed, or you kind of evolved over the years?
Yeah, I would say for me, I've always been, because I grew up in a house full of boys, so I had to kind of stay kind of like the tough. My brothers would always test me, they would always test me, like, toughen up, and they would punch me, and I would have to like suck it up and not cry.
Oh my gosh, I didn't grow up with brothers, so I grew up in a house full of girls and my dad, so I do not know how that is at all.
Yeah, they were rough, and I'm really rough. I didn't realize how rough around the edges I were until I met my husband, and he was like, I have my girly side, but he's like, dude, like, really? Like, really? I'm like, yes, like, what's up? But in terms of me in middle school, I was really, really, really insecure in middle school because, and then for me, middle school years was a little bit different because we kind of moved from one city to, I'm not too sure. I grew up in South Florida, Miami, and both my parents are immigrants. They migrated from Haiti. So
Caribbean's in the house, I'm Jamaican.
Yes, so yes. Caribbean. But we kind of grew, the original city where we were at, which is called Wynwood, it's predominantly like a lot of immigrants, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Latinos, a lot of Haitian, a lot of Caribbean. And then we moved to an area more predominantly Black. And it was like all the kids that I knew from basically kindergarten and up. And then we moved to Liberty City, which was a better or a bigger home. But then I went to school. This was like the first time I went to school where it was like predominantly all Blacks, where it went from being like nothing but Spanish and Caribbean to now all Blacks. And I kind of got picked on a lot because I was kind of like the smart kid. And I spoke differently. And the girls were they were really mean to me.
Wow.
And so it was really, but then I was in a little group of Haitian girls. And so we kind of like formed our own little clique, and when there were sub cliques within the clique. And so that was kind of like my little safe haven. But how did I develop into my spirit? But my mom was always like my foundation to kind of like tell me, you're beautiful, and if something happens at school, don't cry in front of them, like hold your own, and you're tough and blah 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 blah. But it wasn't, I've always been creative. I've always been into drawing. I've always been into the arts, not so much dance. I've always been into kind of playing with my hands, and I used to make my own doll clothes. And my mom was into import-export. That's what she did full time. And so since we were poor, but I didn't really realize we were poor because we always shopped at like the thrift stores, or a lot of the, because she was also, I don't know what it's called. I can't, an auctioneer. So she would go to different auction places like the Goodwill, and then she would buy the estates, and then we would box them up. And so whatever was in there, whether it was from Goodwill or from the thrift stores, we would box it up, and that would be my clothes. So I would kind of have to make it look a little cool,
Yes, my mom used to take us to the auctions too. Is that just a Caribbean thing? Like,
oh yes, it is, because they still to this day send boxes to the Caribbean.
Yes, or barrels, packing barrels to send.
Exactly. Actually, I'm making a couple barrels for my sister right now. But that kind of made me. Because for me in middle school, because I really didn't fit in, I didn't feel like I fit in, because I always got teased. Oh, your hair is pretty long, because the girls would put gum in my hair, and I didn't really. And then because the teachers would ask me to kind of help, then I would get picked on for that. So I didn't kind of really feel like I fit in. So anytime I tried to do something that made me feel in, I kind of looked like a dork or felt like a dork. So I kind of learned to basically live or just do things at the beat of my own drum, especially since I really couldn't have the cool shoes. Like my dad, I'd be like, oh, I want these shoes. And he would take me to Payless and be like, that's the shoes you're getting. And so I'll get picked on at school and I'm like, I can't wear these shoes. Like, what can I do to wear, like I would just basically have to like, instead of blending in, I would kind of just do my own thing in a way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I realized later on that was kind of me being myself, which is how I am now. Like I don't care about blending in, or I care about doing what everybody else is doing. But that was kind of me in middle school. But then in high school, both my parents passed away when I was 15.
Oh wow!
And,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then we moved in with my aunt to like suburbia, like, right? Mm-hmm. So we moved from the hood to like suburbia, which was another transition. So now I left everybody there, and all my friends, and that was another kind of like awkward situation because you're moving to this high school where everybody already know everybody, and you got to kind of like fit in. And I still kind of felt like the oddball out. And for me, those last 3 years of high school was just, let me just graduate. Let me just graduate and get out of here. Let me just graduate and get out of here. And so I was kind of like those, I like to call those my depression lost years. Mm-hmm. I actually, when my mom passed away, I did my freshman year at a school where I was in a magnet program, and then I got out of it, but I really wasn't mentally there to kind of, because my counselor said, why aren't you taking these classes? You're a magnet student. I was just like, look, I just want to graduate. Mm-hmm. Maybe get a scholarship and just go to a college. Like, that's all I really want to do. I don't want to excel in anything. I don't want to stand out. I just want to blend in. And that's kind of what I did for my high school year, kind of my high school years. I just kind of blended in just so that I can just graduate and get past, mm-hmm. That stage of my life. Yeah.
So you eventually went on to the University of South Florida, right? Where you got a Bachelor in Arts in Communication. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why communication, and what did you do after college?
Communications, because it's funny because you know how Caribbean parents always want you to do medicine.
Oh, yeah.
They want you to become a nurse. They want you to do
lawyer, engineer,
a doctor or a lawyer. And I remember in middle school, right before I got accepted into the magnet program, which was a medical magnet program, my mom would push me. I want you to become a doctor. I don't care what kind of doctor you want to be a doctor. I was like, oh my gosh! So here I am, a ninth grader, taking all these classes, and I wouldn't say I hated it. It just wasn't an interest of mine. So when my mom passed away and I had to move in with my aunt, that was kind of like my little escape out of the magnet program. But I didn't know what I wanted to do because all my life my mom was like, you're going to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. No matter what, I don't care. Get your life together. You're going to be a doctor. And if you're not a doctor, you're a nurse. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do this. I don't really want to do this, So for me, after I graduated, I took a long time off from school, just kind of to work and to be in the workforce. And then I realized, this is not for me. Like, I don't really want to, for me, that was when I realized, working, like, I can make much more money getting a degree, and I'm a lot much more smarter than a lot of these people really think I am, mm-hmm. So it was a way for me to also kind of just find myself, and it was a reality check also. But then I got a communications degree because, number one, I like talking to people, and then number two, I loved, what was enticing to me was PR, and the idea of basically representing the company and doing the events for them and mm-hmm. getting them publication and news and all that other good stuff. Because when I moved away from South Florida, you have to grow into your own, and I would always host these events for my girlfriends, where they would come to my house and we would have like little cocktail parties, or we call it Thursday I think it was called Thirsty Thursdays or something. Where we were all
they still have that now.
yeah, but we were all go to somebody's house on Thursday because it was a Thursday. You really couldn't go out to a club because you had class and work the next day, and so we would all like bring pizza and wine, and it was like our way to kind of stay connected throughout the week. And I'm like, I could really do this. And then we started doing like, somebody asked me to do a passions party, and I was like, yes. But I also was like enticed by the corporate side of it. So I was like, I want to do this for corporate America, like I want to get paid and do this, which is why I kind of went into the communications aspect of it. And then I started working for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where I kind of like fell in love with the philanthropy part of it. And it kind of made me realize how, even though we were poor, my mom would always give back to the community. She would feed the homeless. Like she would make me take a plate of food down to the homeless people downstairs. Because she kind of knew some of the homeless people. She was really friendly like that. But, or she would always make us get a big bag of canned foods and give it to the homeless people for them to eat. So I was like, I really love this philanthropy part of it, which is why I got into the not-for-profit sector part of communications.
So Barbara, tell me about what inspired you to launch Jacq's Organics.
Okay, so my husband James and I decided we were going to start our family. Within 3 weeks of us finding out that I was pregnant, I found out that I had a tumor in my left ovary. I've always been a conscious consumer. We've always shopped at the farmer's market and worked out several days a week, so I really didn't understand why I had the tumor. And when we would ask the doctor really couldn't explain to me what was going on. I also had some fibroids at the time, which we learned that I had, and they actually sent me across town to see a specialist to figure out what was going on. And it was becoming a little frustrated. I was becoming a little frustrated because here I was, barely a month pregnant, and nobody could tell me what was going on with my body. And it just, I don't know if you've ever been to the physician or been to a doctor and they kind of patronize you and like, no, don't worry, nothing's wrong. But they really don't want to, they're really not telling you much of information about what's going on.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Because you can sense it. You can sense it. Like, they don't really know. Yeah. They don't want to tell you they don't know. So they just send you in circles. They don't.
And I don't know if he was kind of doing that to kind of protect me or not to scare me. But I don't know. Maybe I like to know what's going on. I like the details. Give me the details. What's going on. And it just kept becoming very, very frustrating because every week, I went from basically, so he sent me back. He said, okay, see me in a couple weeks. You're going to see this specialist every week from here on to see what's going on. They're going to run tests. They're going to test. And they really just wouldn't tell me anything. Even the specialist wouldn't even tell me anything. They're poking me. They're pulling blood.
And you're still pregnant, right?
I'm still pregnant, and okay. This is basically me in the first trimester, and it just became really, really, really frustrating. At this point, it's actually very scary because I don't even know if I'm going to even get through the first or second trimester, so I didn't even want to share the news with too many people. My older brother, one of my older brothers, who's here, is like my best friend, and I kind of told him, and we kind of prayed, and I was like, I'm just not ready to share the news with anybody until I kind of find out what's going on with my body. So me being who I am, I just started researching, ovarian tumors. I got frustrated to the point where I was like, give me my medical records. Like, I need my medical record. I need to know what's going on. And I just had to dissect my medical records just to get the name of the tumor that I had, figure out how big it was, what was going on. Because here I was, I later on down the line, as I started researching, I started learning about my body, and my current gyno or my OB just really wasn't giving me much information. At the time, we were in Orlando, and my husband had got laid off because this was during the time of the recession. And we started looking for, because we're both from South Florida, and he started looking for a job here, because at this point in my pregnancy, I had already quit my job, and I was just on bed rest because they told me at any given point the tumor could explode or bust, and it could kill me. So I was basically bedridden, and I was barely showing, right? So I just started ordering books, reading medical journals online just to try to figure out what was going on. And it wasn't until I was about 5 months pregnant, we moved down from Orlando to South Florida, and I found a specialist. And I was vetting people. I was like, who are you? I was that annoying patient. Like, the guy was like, it's going to be okay. And I'm like, is it really going to be okay? Or is that what you want me to believe it's going to be okay? And he was like, you're reading a lot of information. You know a lot. You have a medical background? And I was like, no, I don't. But he basically assured me and made me feel like, it's going to be okay. And he kind of sat and had a conversation with me about what was really going on with my body. And, kind of made me feel better. But then we started talking about what I was eating, and I stumbled upon a medical journal talking about the systematic effects certain ingredients have on your overall health. And I started talking to him about this medical journal, this article that I read. And I started telling him. He was like, well, what are you doing? Because I was at the time a vegetarian, or not so much, I would call it a flexitarian, where I would eat meat, and I would eat, like, 1 week I'm like all about my chicken and my meat, and then the next week I'm all about my greens, and I really wasn't, what I was kind of overdosing on was kind of soy, right? And the more and more I started learning about what I was putting in my body, the more and more I started realizing that I was feeding my tumor, my fibroids, because I was killing the soy milk, which soy mimics estrogen hormone. I was also really heavily drinking almond milk as well. And at the time, the company that made the almond milk that I was drinking was putting estrogen in the almond milk. So that was feeding my fibroids. And then here I was all, when you first you become a conscious consumer, you're all about your soy. Like, soy is everything.
Yeah. I found out I was allergic to soy, actually, because I did an allergy test. And a lot of people are actually allergic to it. And I didn't know that almond milk has estrogen in it. Or was it just this company?
Some of it does.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Some of it does. At the time, which is about 5-6 years ago, that was part of one of their marketing on the bottle. It was like with estrogen in it. It doesn't have it now, but at the time when I was pregnant, it did. And I didn't know soy, the tofu, a lot of the things that I was eating, chickpea from the hummus mimics the estrogen hormone. So here I was, and I was talking to the doctor, and he was like, you're a breathing ground. You're having a little girl. Your body's a ball of estrogen. You're a breathing ground. You're basically feeding your fibroids and your tumors. If you're eating all these estrogenic foods, you're feeding it. That's why it's growing. And I was like, what? Are you serious? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you might need to fall back from that. And then
did he say it like that? Fall back?
No, not really.
I know.
Not really.
No.
Like, he was like, you need to slow down with that. It was a Russian guy, a really cool Russian guy. But yeah. And then the chicken, of course, when I was, eating chicken, of course, that more processed foods has, some chickens are injected with the estrogen. So it just made me think. And then I started reading. I read this other journal where it talked about, the systematic, like I said, the systematic effects of ingredients. And I started learning about, carcinogenic ingredients and skincare products and beauty products. And then, of course, and baby products. And I was like, I'm not gonna use it on my unborn child. Like, this is ridiculous. Some of the preservatives kind of, they're just ridiculous.
Your skin is an important organ to take care of. A lot of people don't realize what you put on your skin seeps into your body.
Yeah, your skin is the largest organ, and anything you put on your body, your liver has to process it. And I was thinking at the time when I was like 7 months pregnant, we had our baby shower. And somebody gave me a bottle, like you get all these things of Johnson & Johnson, and I'm on the back reading the back of the labels, and I'm like, oh, hell no, like, this is not going anywhere near my baby. And when I thought about it, I'm like, here I'm going to have this unborn child, their liver may or may not be completely developed, and I'm going to be putting this poisonous product on my baby. I'm not doing that. And actually during college, because I was natural, I was really into making my own hair products. I would actually get stopped on campus and people were like, what are you using in your hair? Oh my gosh, your twist out looks really pretty. Your fro is really, really nice. And I'm like, is it shea butter and coconut oil? And they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. I don't know anything about it. So can I buy some from you? So I used to sell some of the stuff that I would use in my hair. So I was like, if I can mix this up, why can I not mix up lotion and soap? So here I am again, going online, ordering all these books, these DVDs. And I kind of turned my kitchen into, I know I didn't kind of, I turned my kitchen into a laboratory. Like, and for me, it was like therapy for me. It was a way for me to feel like, okay, I'm taking control of what's going on with my body in terms of food. And also because I call myself a recovered beauty product junkie, but really not, because like most women in their 20s, you're all about your looks, right? Your hair, your clothes, your face, your makeup. That's if you're really a girly girl, right? And I would say that actually while I was in college, I worked at Nordstrom's, which fed my addiction. And, you know, I had beauty products under my sink, under my bed. I had a makeup bag under my car seat. I had it in the closet. I was that one girlfriend where if we were going to the club, you were coming to my house to get your makeup done. If you were going on a date, I'm putting lashes on you. We're gonna beat your face, right? And it was ridiculous. But then it never dawned on me until I was pregnant, like the ingredients that I was putting, like the products that I was putting in my hair and the products that I was putting on my skin may have also contributed to me being sick, right? And a lot of the foods that I was eating, just for the sake of, it's the norm of what everybody else is eating when you become a conscious consumer, was also feeding my tumor and my fibroids. So me tinkering in the kitchen and just researching what I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating, what's high in what's an estrogenic, high in estrogenic, what's naturally high in estrogen, what's naturally high in testosterone, to kind of balance out my diet, kind of helped me. And it's funny, when I started, because I was basically I was basically just trying to weigh out the pregnancy and just deliver the baby before finding a job. When we would have friends and family members come by, they'd be like, why do you have all the soap in the kitchen? I'm like, well, do you want to try it out? And I'm like, what's this big bowl of whipped cream? I'm like, that's lotion. You want to try some? And they were like, we had some people like, no, girl, what's wrong with you? And then we had some people that were like, yeah, I would try it out. I have eczema, or my daughter has acne. Can you make something for her? And within that year, they became like my focus group, because I had bougie family members like, girl, this don't feel like Dove. No. So I was like, not a problem. I will formulate something that feels better than Dove. And I would go back in and, you know, research and try and find something that would feel much better than Dove, you know? So that's kind of how it was. Well, that's not how Jacq. That's sort of how Jacq Organics got started. And then once I delivered and I went through surgery and they took out the tumor, my fibroids, it wasn't until like almost 6 or 7 months later after recovery, that's when we launched Jacq Organics. Yeah.
So you said your husband was the one who told you that you should probably make a business out of this, right?
I guess he kind of saw the passion that I had and how much fun I was having. But for me, it's funny because my husband is always like, you know, you're really creative. And I'm like, no, not really. And it's funny how other people see things in you that you don't even see in yourself, right?
That's so true. And sometimes you need them to tell you, because sometimes you need that constant reminder so that you finally accept it. Like, okay, I guess so. And then you accept it.
Yes. Because for me, I was stuck in the house for about 1.5 years. And I just wanted to get back into work. I was over baby TV. I was over cooking and cleaning. I was over it. I was like, I got student loans. I need to go to work. I need to be around an adult and have an adult conversation. And so, you know, he was like, why don't you sell this stuff? And plus, remember, I was doing this as a hobby. So our dining room table turned into like my little storage unit. Like we had so much soap everywhere. And our neighbors, when they would walk by or come in, they're like, why does your house smell so good? What is that? And I'm like, oh, that's just soap. But yeah, he kind of convinced me. Him and a girlfriend of mine convinced me to do a farmer's market one Saturday, and I didn't realize how much stuff I had till I packed like 4 small suitcases full of products, and I was like, oh man, like this is like it's a problem, right? The other problem was that I was supplying a lot of our friends and family members like free soap, and my husband was like, this is beginning to get expensive. Like, we can't be making soap for everybody. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you need to sell it. And I was like, I don't really want to sell it. And the reason why I didn't want to, because like I told you, my mom did a lot of import export, right? And during her off season, or when it was really slow, a lot of her merchandise, we would have to go to the farmers markets or the little flea markets and sell it. And so that was my childhood on the weekends, like 4:00 in the morning, getting up to pack the truck, then going out to set up the tables and set up the products, or, like the shoes and the clothes to sell. And I remember I've always had my mom in the back of my head saying, this is not the life that I want for you. You need to go to college. This is why I want you to become a physician or a nurse, because it's a hard life. And for me, that was taking like 10 step backs for me in my head. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, James, I am not about that life. No, no, my mama did not come all the way from Haiti for this. I'm not selling at no farmer's market. No, I'm like, right. But reluctantly I went, and we sold so much products. And when I got home, I was like, I think I got something here. And he was like, I told you, you should. So a few months later, we launched the website. We told all our friends online, and it kind of started selling slowly and surely online. I didn't go back to a farmer's market because
you couldn't. There's too many bad memories.
It is. And it's funny because me and my brother joke about it now, but I do it. I still do it, when I need to, or when there's an event that we're invited to, or there's an event that I need to be at. But I just didn't. For me, especially at where I was in my life, I just wanted to get back to work, and that for me was a lot of work. Compared to my childhood, like waking up super crackhead early, your whole entire Saturday is done, and then you don't even enjoy your weekend. So I said, if I was going to do this business, I was going to do it right. I was going to launch a website. We're going to pitch to boutiques and stores so they can carry the line. And so that's when we started working on, like the business side of it. And then shortly after, I got a job working. I went to work again.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about early days of Jacq's Organics. What were some of your biggest challenges that you guys worked through in just getting the business up and running and finding customers and really building a sustainable business model?
Early challenges. Well, part of the early challenges for me was that I was working full time and doing it full time. So for the first 3 years, or the first 2.5 years, I kind of did it as a side business because I was trying to basically work my way up the work ladder, right? Corporate America. And so for me, it was time management, because here I was, a new mom, and I'm at this job working as an event organizer, and I still had this website that orders needed to be fulfilled, and I still needed to make it because I'm the only person running the business. In terms of getting because I took a couple classes on marketing, I kind of used that marketing background to kind of help leverage a lot of exposure. But what kind of really helped was the fact that where I was at taught me a lot about networking and leveraging relationships. So I did a lot of networking, and I realized quickly, very early on, that my Facebook friends and family,
we're not going to be your friends. We're not going to be the ones buying from you, right?
To support my business. No. So I had to learn about, Google ads and Facebook ads, and really getting out of my comfort zone, like going to marketing events, going to network events, kind of getting myself out there to kind of sell the business. And then that's when I started learning about the power of your story, right? The power of, because when people heard that, oh, you sell soaps? That's great. Well, how did you get started? Oh my gosh, now I really want to help you out. Like, I really need to be a customer, like that. That's when I realized the power of storytelling. And, it also, how we got a lot of our business was because we started getting a little bit of press around the city. And so that started helping our numbers online. And then word of mouth, a lot of word of mouth, because we're a very small business, and a lot of people would just refer their friends like, oh my gosh, did you hear about Jacq's Organics? And this is how I knew we started catching a little bit of traction when one of my college girlfriends, all over in Orlando, called me up and she was like, girl, somebody just told me about Jacq's Organics. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, they were like, yeah, you should see this girl's website, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, that's my homegirl. I know her. I know about Jacq's Organics. So the power of word of mouth the word of mouth is very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. But how we started getting traction is basically just a lot of networking. A lot of the marketing, I learned a lot about social media marketing, especially since we don't have a really a brick and mortar. That's what kind of helped our business.
So are you still working a 9 to 5, or are you now working on Jacq's Organics full time?
No, I'm working on Jacq's Organics full time. It's been about 2 years since I left my job, and we after I left my job about 2 years ago, I took that leap of faith, which most people would be like, girl, what's wrong with you? Why did you quit your job? Mm-hmm. But for me, I just felt like it was time for me to make a decision, because I was working crazy hours. There were times where I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I didn't get home until 3 o'clock that day, and I was working 7 days a week, and I barely saw my family. And here I was I had this side business, but I'm starting to my sales are starting to go down, and it wasn't until literally, so I was working an event. This is the catalyst. This is what broke the camel's back, right? I was working an event, and I was sitting on a panel at the event for Jacq's Organics, right? Mm-hmm. So here I am talking about the power of knowing what we put on our skin for the sake of beauty, understanding that as women of color, we take care of everybody else, and instead of taking care of ourselves, and we neglect ourselves, and blah, 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 blah. And as soon as I got off the panels, I'm flipping chairs and tables, and then my table is swarmed where my husband was working, and my table was full of women telling me how they could relate to my story, and how one woman had lupus and she wasn't ready to tell her family. Another one was dealing with something else. And I started to realize, yes, the power of storytelling is powerful, but my story, so many women could relate to it. And it's so much bigger than me, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, are you going to continue to work for somebody else, or are you going to continue to are you going to grow this business that has a lot more potential to impact lives? Or are you going to just be miserable working for somebody else, making somebody else rich? You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's funny because the CEO for the company that I work for, she knew that I was an entrepreneur. She kind of pushed me, would say, she would basically kind of encourage me to kind of step out of my box, and encourage me like, you're going to do amazing things, and, kind of do this and kind of do that. And when I turned in my 2 weeks, she was like, I'm not surprised, and to me, I was surprised. I was like, I don't really know if I really want to do this. I had money saved in my savings account, but it wasn't until a year after quitting my job that we moved into the studio where we're at now, where we basically manufacture everything and ship it out, nationally. But
what kind of shifts did you see in your business once you switched back to doing it full time?
Oh my gosh. To me, I didn't realize that my business was neglected until I was able to give it my full attention. Because at that time, within 6 months of me quitting my job, we got a huge contract. We got a huge order. And then 2 months after that, we got calls from huge retailers asking us about orders. And for me, it was all about the hustle at the time. Cause I was like, you know what? I have X amount of money saved up, and I don't want to put that burden on my husband. And we also have a child. The last thing that I want to do is quit this job and have to go find another job because I did, which is not a bad thing, but that was my motivation and my drive. So the results that I saw in my business, it just went from barely making any sales to making sales consistently. And then 6 months after that, we had enough money to basically move into a larger space because the huge order that we got. Like I could no longer fulfill orders in my kitchen, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so no, that makes sense. And what do you think was, what if you looking back at those days, when did you know that Jacq's Organics was successful? Like, how did you define success as you were growing?
Honestly, maybe this is me being hard on myself. I don't really feel like we're successful. I feel like we're on the road to success. Mm-hmm. Because for me, I feel like let me think about this. Let's see. The little wins, I think one thing that we as entrepreneurs do is that we don't celebrate our little wins, right? Our little victories. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that our victories are not worth celebrating, because I definitely see the importance of it. But for me, I just feel like what success is for me is maybe beating the goal that we had last month or the last quarter, right? Mm-hmm. I'm all about analytics and I'm all about my numbers, but maybe me saying that we're not successful is bad, but maybe because I'm hard on myself, I just feel like we could definitely be doing better. But I know that I am where I'm supposed to be right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I totally get what you mean. But let's think about, because there might be people listening in who might have their own idea for their own skincare line and selling things online. Do you have any tips for someone who has an idea for online business? Like, what are the things that you really have to square away and really get good at if you want to be successful online?
First thing first is that you have to know who your consumers are, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like you can't, with any business, you got to know who you're selling. You got to know who their demographic, their household income. You basically got to create a customer profile. That's one thing. And number two, I would say research your competitors, right? Research your competitors, find out what they're doing, what could you be doing better, and how you can make yourself stand out. And in terms of an online business, if online business is all about analytics, SEO, search engine optimization, because especially with online businesses, there's going to be trends, and you got to stay on top of that. You gotta stay on top of that. In terms of being successful, I'm all about analytics, because I feel like it's all in the numbers. And if you're in an online, just with any business, period, your numbers do not lie, right? Mm-hmm. So if you feel like you're in love, I feel like the first, because this is where, I remember one lesson that I learned. I remember when we first launched, we launched with just really like products that I thought that I would like coconut scented stuff and chocolate soaps, but those things really weren't selling. Some people were purchasing it, but what was selling a little bit more is what you see on the site right now. Even though I may have loved it, but it was just sitting on the shelf, and that's a waste of product. So watch your numbers. With online businesses, know your customers, and your customers might change. For me, my customers changed dramatically. In the beginning, I really didn't have customers. My customers were my friends and my family members. And then I slowly start to realize that my customers were a certain type of demographic, like the conscious consumers. And right now, what's trending with my customers are Black consumers, like Black, because right now with Buy Black, mm-hmm. What's trending right now. So we have a peak in individuals of color that are buying. But we do have our steady customers, which are conscious consumers, like the green hippies and the bougie hippies that tend to love their green products that kind of steadily buy. So you got to know your market, know what's trending, know what's not trending. If somebody's buying, you got to figure out why. There are times where we do random phone calls and we call our customers to ask them how things are going, but why did they purchase the products? How did they find us? Would they recommend our product to somebody else? So that we'll know what's going on in terms of what we could be doing better, where did we mess up, etc.
Mm-hmm. And those are all great tips. And I just think that, as the online world, everyone's opening up an online shop nowadays. So you really also have to know how to make your products stand out. What do you think is one thing that you really did to make sure that your Jacq's Organics products were standing out in the marketplace and in the niche that you're in?
There are several things that I did to kind of stand out. Number one, in the beginning, I really wasn't, I was doing what I thought my customers wanted, but I had to be true to my own voice, because in order for our products to stand out, it had to come from Barbara, right? Because nobody's going to do Dreams and Drive the way Raina do Dreams and Drive, right? You have to put your own voice in it. And that's what I learned is through trial and error. I want to say a lot of it also had to do with, I used to think it was our branding and our marketing, but it really isn't that. It's also the lifestyle. Like in the beginning, I thought I was just selling a product and a soap, but we're actually selling a lifestyle. So what makes us stand out is how we kind of market the lifestyle, but also we do it with our own flavor. You get it? Because I feel like right now the market is is starting to get a little saturated. But what makes our customers come back is, I feel, has to do with our customer service, but also how we kind of market the lifestyle and the product. But also, I want to say that that's what it is. Oh, and we also, I'm really big on result-driven products, because you can go to TJ Maxx and buy a soap, or you can go to Walmart and buy a soap. But if somebody's coming to me to buy a soap specifically because they have eczema or they have acne, and they're paying a little bit more money because, this product is natural, it has to deliver what it's saying it's doing, So I spend a lot of time on sourcing and testing our products to make sure that it says what it's going to do. And especially, there's a huge misconception because, we live in a society where people are so quick to be like, I have a pimple, let me put something on here. And a lot of people don't understand that with natural products, it takes a little bit longer to work. And so we're kind of like on the fine line between natural products and science to make sure that, yes, it's natural, but it also delivers what it says it's going to do,
Definitely. And I love what you said about really remembering that no one's going to do it like you can do it. And I think that sometimes stops a lot of people from even trying, right? Like a lot of people just don't want to try because they feel like, oh, this is done before. This has been done before. Or I'm not going to be any different. I'm not going to be able to present anything new. And I think that's a really stifling mindset to have if you don't realize that you can have a unique spin on it, or just your story is different from someone else's story, and there will definitely be people that will want to support you because of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I still have that issue where I would call it fear, right? Because the fear of the unknown, or the fear of failing, right? But you have to swallow that pill, and what's on the other side of fear, right? Is success. If anything, and if you fail, there's nothing wrong with you getting up and picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and trying it again, because I failed, believe me. I failed multiple times. And I'm sure we all fail multiple times, but when it's in your business and you failed, it's a result of lost money, time and energy, especially with me. I feel like if I fail at something, I could be spending that time with my husband, or spending time with my family or my daughter. But you just got to dust yourself off and be like, that's something that I've learned. I'm not going to do it again. If I do it again, what can I do better? But, it's about overcoming that fear. And like we said, nobody's going to do it the way you do it. And if you are going to do it, put your own twist on it. How can you make it better if you are going to do the same thing that everybody else is doing? What makes you different?
What's one mistake that you think you made with Jacq's Organics that you wouldn't make again?
One mistake with Jacq's Organics. I would say, I just had this conversation with a girlfriend of mine who's also another business owner. I would say is research the financial part of being a business owner. Like, I didn't know you had to pay taxes on a monthly basis. And it wasn't until I got a call from my local IRS department. I was like, hey, when are you going to pay these taxes? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, I paid my taxes last year. And they were like, no, you got to pay monthly taxes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I feel like a lot of small business owners, or a lot of beginning business owners, we focus a lot on how the website looks and the branding and the Instagram and the Facebook, but we don't know about the taxes and, you know, how to incorporate the business, or the things that people really don't talk about, you know? Mm-hmm. And thank God the IRS was like, it's not a problem. Just make sure you pay your taxes, you know?
So what resources did you, like, were there any resources that after that you used to kind of get financially educated in that regard?
Yes. So there's score.org is a really, really good one, where they have weekly and monthly classes that teach you about QuickBooks and finances and all that other good stuff, which is also, you can also find a mentor there. What's another one? I would say also joining... You can also just go to Barnes and Nobles and find a book. For me, I was focused on, I think because I was working full time and I was just concerned, like, oh, this is an online business. I really don't have to pay taxes on it. It's not that serious. Like those are, and I read books all the time, and I don't know why that was the one thing that nobody told me about, or one thing that I didn't stumble upon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's another resource that you can probably find? I would say talking to other entrepreneurs that honestly will keep it real with you. Like having a small group of individuals that you can kind of talk to and call up, that's willing to share their mistakes and help you along the way. That's one. And possibly also a mentor, because it wasn't until I got the call from IRS and I called SCORE and I was like, look, I need a financial mentor. Like I need to get my stuff together. And he was that's when he sat down and broke it down for me and made sure that, you know, certain things were in order, because I didn't know any better, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one.
One thing I want to ask you as we wind down, what's one way that you handle stress? Because I feel like a lot of dream drivers, they might get overwhelmed at times. So is there something that you do when you feel like giving up, when you just feel like there's too much going on?
Well, I don't feel like giving up. I feel like maybe it's a Taurus in me, that I'm driven and I feel like I have to see this thing through, mm-hmm. you know, to where I want it to go. But when I feel stressed, there's a couple of things that I do. I'm really big in balancing your stress out, like taking a walk, hugging a tree, lighting some incense, or running. Like I have a yoga mat right at my desk, or if I need to, I'll turn the lights off and do some yoga, taking a bath, a salt bath to kind of help release some toxins out of my body. But you know, I'm really big on listening to motivational speeches, because sometimes where you get a little discouraged, or you just need that little extra oomph in your, like the little gas in your tank, you know, mm-hmm. That's how I release. I kind of like manage my stress. I'll even go take a run. I will do yoga. I will unplug. I'll tell my husband, like, look, when I come home, I'm just going to go straight to the shower. You can handle the baby. Like, I need to unwind. I don't want to talk to anybody. But I think running is really, really big for me. Running, kind of releasing those endorphins. Sometimes if you need to cry it out, cry. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with crying it out sometimes, but prayer as well. Like, there's nothing like a good prayer to release some stress.
So, Barbara, what do you think your mom would be the most proudest of you about, you know, with your whole Jacq's Organic story? Because, you know, you said you mentioned that she was your hero, so I just really wanted to make sure that I didn't lose that and really ask you, because I think that's important to your story, you know?
Yes, my mom was my hero, and she's kind of why I still do this, because I remember seeing her work late nights, you know, and put food on the table, but also, you know, traveling and not complaining, traveling between 2 or 3 countries and not complaining. So I would say the one thing that my mom is best proud of me of is probably seeing me grow into the young woman that I am, but also seeing how far I've gotten without being discouraged, despite the fact that both my parents were not here to kind of help encourage me, and the drive that I have.
So let's go into our lightning round, Barbara. So this part of our interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind. And you listened to episodes before, so you know how this goes, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So the first word, park.
Rest.
Reverse.
Regroup.
Neutral.
Strategize.
Drive.
Progress.
Oh, I don't think I've heard any of those, that combo. Maybe I've heard rest before. With the other ones, I haven't heard that one yet. And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have keys to success. So, Barbara, tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
Okay, believe in yourself, even when nobody else does. Believe in yourself. Number 2, set goals and meet those goals. And even if you don't meet those goals, reset those goals so that you can make them attainable. And then have multiple mentors to help guide you along the way. If you have to have a financial mentor for finance, one for marketing, one for sales, just have multiple mentors, one in your industry to help you along the path.
I love that. And that's something that I'm even working on with Dreams and Drives, realizing that sometimes you think you can teach yourself everything, but you can't. You need somebody that actually has been through it and that can guide you so that you don't have to make mistakes and you can actually get some expert advice. And there's a difference from teaching yourself and being taught something. So
you can't do it all. That's one thing I know I've realized in my business is that you cannot, as much as I want to have control over everything, it's impossible. You need to work with people, and mentors are key because they help. It's like that. They help you walk through that dark road. They're the light that help you, the one that gives you the directions and they give you that advice. And the mentors, I would say my first mentor, my sales mentor, is the reason why I was so driven, because he held me accountable. Like, even when I thought I was like, oh, I'm doing it, and he was like, you ain't doing nothing yet. And like, check me. Like, I was like, okay, then let me regroup. Let me go harder then. So yeah.
So do you have any parting words for our dream drivers, Barbara?
Believe in yourself even when no one else believes in you. And just because someone says that it can't be done doesn't mean that you can't do it. And do it your own way, Yeah,
and tell our dream drivers where they can find your products.
You can find our products at jacqsorganics.com. That's JACQS Organics with an S. And that you can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Barbara. This was such a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that you enjoyed sharing your dream driver story with our audience. I know I enjoyed getting all these tips and all these notes from you as well.
Oh, thank you.
So
I hope you guys had I hope you found some good tidbit information in there.
I definitely did. And as I said, there's somebody that needs to hear this story, and that's something that I always find so amazing, that there are people from each episode that get something different out of it. So it's going to be, I think that you really enjoy when people start, hitting you up or give you feedback or just say, oh my God, that was so inspiring. So just know that it was great, and I'm happy that we were able to connect.
Thank you. I want to tell you, Raina, that you inspire me. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Because, no, for real, I know that, I know you had to get over that fear bump to do it. Because I listened to your podcast, and I've seen how you've grown from like the beginning all the way until now, and the people that you interview from the different angles, like people from the starting out, and people that are multi-billionaires, and people like in between. It's just an amazing thing that you're doing. So it takes a lot of courage. And I just wanted to tell you, thank you for being that voice and this tool and a resource for entrepreneurs and those that are kind of teeter-tottling on doing it, or those that need the inspiration to do it, And the fact that you're consistent with it, good God.
Yeah, I think I really like what you said in the interview about remembering that no one can do it like you, because I think that's something that really stopped me early on, because I'm thinking, oh my God, like, you know, no one's going to listen to the podcast, or there's so many other podcasts out there, but realizing that, you know, there will be people who listen to this one and who like Dreams and Drive and who like listening to me as well. So it really is about embracing your story and knowing that people will like you. You don't have, like, I forgot which guest told me this. I think it was this guy, Nate Holtzaffel. He's like, a lot of people think that you have to have everyone as your audience. But if you just have enough people, that's enough to actually have an audience. You know what I mean? As long as you have a targeted amount and a targeted niche in some way, you don't need 20,000, million, whatever listeners.
You don't.
You just need your steady group, and that group would build, and you'll have people who really want to hear your story and who will listen all the way through. So I'm just working slowly on building that, and getting there. And I'm really proud of how much it's grown to in the past year as well.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people, like you said, that want to do either what you're doing or what I'm doing, but it's that fear, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, and I'm that, and, you know, and I do get crazy messages like all day, either in my email box or in my direct message box, or they DM me, and then you invest all this time and you give them all this energy and feedback and information, and they don't do anything with it, which is frustrating, right?
Definitely.
Because you feel like I feel like this is your business and you've invested your time and energy in it. But for me to give you this time and energy and you don't do anything out of it, it's like, what was the point? Like, just do it, you know? So I'm just proud of you.
Thank you. And I had to learn how to tell people no, because that's something that I really struggled with. Was I'm like a people pleaser, so I love helping people, but at some point you have to help yourself, and helping yourself can sometimes mean saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't just give you my time and give you all this free advice and you don't do anything with it. So I've been really selective with who I help and in what avenue I help. I have no problem directing people. Oh, there's a podcast on that, or I wrote a blog article on that. I just don't have the time. And saying no is fine.
A complete sentence.
Yes.
No is a complete sentence. Yeah. One of my girlfriends told me that. Oh, no is a complete sentence. You don't got to explain why.
Definitely.
So that's a wrap for episode 69 with Barbara. I hope that you enjoyed hearing her dream driving story as well as her keys to success. If you want today's show notes, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 69. And if you want to join our Dreams and Drive community, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. I love this episode. I love all the tips and the stories and the insight that Barbara shared. So make sure if you loved it as well that you go onto social and you share it with someone, whether it be, taking the link and sharing it to your Facebook page, whether it be tweeting about us and using the hashtag Dreams and Drive, or maybe even posting your favorite quote from the episode on Instagram. I love to see you guys engaging, and it's so fun as we build the Dreams and Drive community. If you haven't already, make sure that you are subscribed to us. So hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening, whether it be SoundCloud, iTunes, any of the podcast players such as TuneIn or Stitcher. I really appreciate it, you guys, and it's something that has really helped us grow as the months progress. So keep dreaming, keep driving, and know that if you have an idea that right now is a passion project, you can, with time, effort, and patience, turn it into a full-time business. We'll chat again in episode 70. Our guest is going to be Christia Donaldson, who is the founder of Thank God It's Natural, another natural hair beauty products company, and her episode is going to be so inspiring because, she talks about how she was able to battle breast cancer while running a business, while, how she was able to work full-time as a lawyer and run her business. It's great. So make sure that you are tuned in for episode 70 when that one goes live. Talk to you guys.